What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. I want to talk to you guys about my experience interviewing with a FAANG company. A few months back, I had the opportunity to interview with a FAANG company. Now, I want to preface this by saying I love my team, I love where I work, I love my current job, and I'm not going anywhere. But this seemed like a really big opportunity, and I wanted to hear it out and take my shot at the interview, and so that's what I did. No doubt that if you're watching this, you've probably heard the crazy stories about FAANG interviews. I generally hate to be the bearer of bad news, but unfortunately I'm here to tell you it's true. It is an absolute grind to prep and complete these interviews. And in my particular case, I didn't even get an offer at the end of it. The two main things that I want to talk about today are the preparation and the interview process. Also, FYI, I'm probably not going to name the specific company here that I interviewed for, in case you're waiting for the name. You can take a guess in the comments, but I'm probably not going to tell you. One thing that you're absolutely just not going to be able to get around when it comes to preparing for these interviews is going to be leak code. And honestly, this is helpful for pretty much any level of software engineering interviews, but especially when you're going for these kind of top tier companies, they really just ask like next level questions that medium and small size companies probably aren't going to get as much into. So really there's just no way around the leak code, data structures, and algorithms aspect of it. Is absolutely necessary. You're gonna have to do it. It sucks, it's a grind, but it's part of the game. Now, data structures and algorithms and solving leak code type problems is really not something that you do a whole lot of in the day job of being a software engineer. So unfortunately, you have to spend a lot of additional time outside of work studying these topics. One of the courses that I took that I really recommend was Colt Steele's Data Structures and Algorithms course on Udemy, and I'll put a link to that probably in the description. But honestly, it is a fantastic course. Colt Steele makes amazing content, really good at breaking down hard subjects into kind of bite-sized chunks, and they're much easier to understand. So I highly recommend his content, and especially that course if you're trying to do interview prep. Aside from that, I think that my biggest course of study was leak code, and I sprung for the leak code premium subscription. I think that it was really worth it. Just realized my lights aren't on. That's better. I don't exactly remember off the top of my head how many easy, mediums, hards I did for leak code. I can tell you I did like no hard problems. I just simply could not solve them. They were insanely difficult, I thought. So yeah, I didn't do any hards. I did quite a few easies and quite a few mediums, I would say. I studied linked lists, I studied binary search trees, graphs, regular trees, prefix trees or tries. Studied a lot of data structures and algorithms. Unfortunately, the hard thing is that there's not really a right answer on which ones you should study more than others, I would say. And that's because there's hundreds of potential questions that you could get asked in the interview to solve, or that you may have to create some sort of data structure for. And unfortunately, you just kind of have to study all of them. There's definitely probably going to be ones that you are stronger at than others, and there's just not really much you can do about that other than try to focus on your weak ones. One thing I definitely recommend is try to find some sort of tracker or make one. Just use like a Google sheet and basically track all of the leak code problems that you do, track the specific problem, the difficulty, when you did it, and basically like how long it took you. That way you can track your worst problems and kind of determine like how frequently you should reattempt those problems in order to get better at solving them. And another almost invaluable resource that I feel like almost has to be mentioned at this point, if you haven't heard of it, is the Blind 75 list. A couple years ago, there was a blind post and basically created this kind of curated list of all of these problems that cover topics and patterns that are basically the most likely to appear in these FAANG level interviews. And if I can find one, I will drop a link to that in the description below as well. So when it comes to the interview itself,
emotional, damn it!
Stresses me out just thinking about it. The process I feel like took a lot longer than it should have, and I kind of got passed around to a couple different recruiters for various issues. But once the process got going, essentially I was sent a online assessment that consisted of 2 leak code style problems, and I would say that they were probably medium to like medium hard difficulty. I think one of them was fairly difficult. I was fortunate enough to pass that and move on to the on-site. So when it came to my virtual on-site, This consisted of 4 back-to-back interviews, which were about an hour apiece, and they consisted of behavioral and leak code style questions in each one of them. One of them was a object-oriented design style interview, which is a little bit different than a typical coding interview. It did consist of writing code, but it was more about writing classes to try and get an idea of like how you would design a system, to kind of show like how you would think about it. And I'm not talking like architecture, like how would you design a service. It's more like how would you design a feature, that sort of thing. I thought that this was a really interesting interview because I haven't really, I guess I didn't really like study that type of problem solving. I don't think I really had too much issue with it, but it was just a really interesting kind of way to go about an interview. As far as my interview performance, I think I did pretty decent in probably 2, maybe 3 of them. And then there was one that I knew that I pretty much bombed the coding question. I had some like kind of half-assed pseudocode. I didn't even really like finish the problem. It was a very difficult problem the way that it was asked. And then I kept getting steered away from the way that I was trying to solve it, but without like clarification of why. And so it just kind of made it really confusing and difficult, I guess. So I didn't really like understand how to reach the proper solution. So following my interview, I think it was just short of like a week later, basically I got an email. I unfortunately was not going to be extended an offer. I was kind of bummed at first, and I think I was kind of overly hard on myself because I spent so much time putting all of this effort into study and preparation, like just for this thing, and then it didn't work out. And so I was like really hard on myself about it at the time. I kind of had some time to reflect on that and realized that maybe it just wasn't for the best. And to kind of just like appreciate the great position that I'm in right now, and just like how fortunate I am to be in that role. So I think in hindsight, like I'm not bummed anymore that things didn't work out like I was at the time. And I don't think it's all bad. I think that even though the end goal was kind of not met with that, I take away that it was a great learning experience. I learned a lot of computer science details that I had never really learned or gone super in depth with before, like about data structures and algorithms and kind of how that stuff works. So even if it's stuff that I don't necessarily use every day, having that kind of understanding of those things on like a deeper level kind of really, I think, still helped me become a better developer. I think that eventually I might try to re-interview with a FAANG company, but I don't think that it's going to be anytime soon. In the meantime, I just plan on trying to continue to become a better developer and maybe work on some side projects and stuff that I really just like had no time to toy around with due to the fact that I was just so busy studying and what free time I had. So I'm kind of enjoying like taking back my time and being able to kind of pursue these side projects again. That is all I have for you guys today. And if you enjoyed today's video, please feel free to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Until next time, guys.